The Russian-Chinese border is one of the longest borders in the whole world. It goes from the China, North Korea, Russia border 3-point all the way to the one with Mongolia, and then for the shortest stretch it goes from Mongolia to Kazakhstan. It's over 4,000 kilometers, but there's only one spot along the whole border where you've got two separate populated centers that face each other across the border. And as you can guess from the words and the writings that you guys can see around me, today we're currently in the Chinese border city of Heihe. And in today's video, our main goal is going to be exploring a town that is only 500 meters away from the Russian town of Blagovyeshensk, separated only by the legendary Amur River. Despite the two towns, Heihe and Blagovyeshensk, being so close together, they couldn't be any more different, really, just because you've got two separate cultures, two separate religions, two separate languages, two separate writing systems, but you do have something that you don't usually have in other Chinese towns, and that you can only find in this town so close to Russia. Look at that. Here we've got a statue, and it says in Chinese and in Russian, Отец русской литературы, Pushkin. Here on the main street, on the main pedestrian street of Heihe, there's a statue dedicated to the father of Russian literature, Pushkin, Alexander Pushkin. Only in Heihe, right? It's fair to say that very few Italians in history, or Westerners for that matter, have ventured as far out as the most remote Chinese lands on the border with Russia.
Не русские, где червяка?
Cerveca? Что это такое?
Это Китай.
Нация? Италия.
Италия.
Италия. Чуть-чуть по-русски. Да. So it naturally started attracting the attention of all the middle-aged Chinese women of Heihe who are into live streaming on Chinese TikTok.
Как вас зовут?
Меня зовут Давиде.
Давида.
Да, а вас?
Моя имя Катя.
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 О, русское имя.
Русское имя. Heihe червяка все русское имя есть. Моя имя Катя.
My plan was clear. I wanted to document the reality of life in Heihe, potentially making it as far as the actual border with Russia to be able to look at Russia from across the river. And what better way to do that than letting the locals of Heihe guide me through the dodgy streets of the town. Oh, wow, Doraemon. У нас тоже есть Виталий Doraemon. Я знаю его. А вы работаете в аптеку сюда? Значит, у вас везде есть надпись на китайском и на русский, да. So there is some cross-border traffic between Heihe and Blagovyeshensk, and as the kind lady was telling us, you do have some people who come from Russia to China to go shopping basically, and the other way around as well. You've got Chinese going to Blagovyeshensk. And that's the reason why most shops on this pedestrian street, on this touristic street of Heihe, have got writings in both Chinese and Russian. For example, this is a shop which is targeting Russian tourists, Russian women, to come and buy одежда деловая женщина. This is where Russian women, and more specifically business women, because it says деловая женщина, can come and purchase their clothes. For example, on the other side of the street, there's also a pharmacy which says, oh, gotta watch out, don't want to get run over in a Chinese border town. Also here, there's a pharmacy because it says apteka, and you've got some Chinese writings, and then you've got the items that are most often purchased by Russians written in Russian. So you've got chai, hot tea, you've got конфеты, candies, and obviously you've got vodka. Wow. Russians do come from across the border from Blagoveshchensk quite often for shopping and other touristy purposes. Первый раз в Китае. Я не русский, я из Италии. Италия, знаете Италию? Италия, да.
Красивее.
О, спасибо. Шешен. А вы живете в Heihe? So that's why a lot of shops on the main pedestrian street of Heihe are targeted at Russians.
Какой магазин ходите?
Не знаю, что посоветуете. Я хочу
Давай
снимать
наши чай магазин снимать наши чай. Там хороший стул, можно пить,
для
можно
русских
попробовать.
туристов. Хорошо, шешен. And so I randomly headed to this Chinese tea house, which is something that sounds like straight out of Pokemon Leaf Green. But this was the place where I had the chance to meet up with two Russians from Blagoveshchensk, whom I had got to know previously while I was heroically crossing the frozen Amur River on my way to China from Russia. Расскажите просто, как жить здесь? Ну, вы живете в России, а вы можете смотреть на Китай с вашей окна почти.
Всем привет, дорогие друзья! Меня зовут Василий, это мой друг Дмитрий. Вчера мы познакомились с нашим замечательным новым другом Дэвидом. Вот, и наша жизнь, на самом деле, какая она в России, а по соседству Китай, это, как по-русски есть поговорка, сходить в магазин за хлебом. Что это настолько близко, мы видим всегда их, они видят всегда нас. Они всегда нам запускают много салютов на праздники. Да, мы это видим, празднуемся, руками машем друг другу.
О, классно.
Ну, настолько все это.
Wow, there really is no place that is more fascinating than the Russian Far East.
Да, очень часто раньше, когда была открыта таможня, ну, не было визового режима, ездили сюда на выходные просто сходить покушать, вот попить чай, в бане попариться, погулять и потом вернуться домой.
А сейчас ты сказал, что вам надо виза.
Ну, сейчас, да,
Сейчас
виза.
не то, что даже виза, нужна именно группой только можно проехать в Китай. То есть раньше ты можешь один съездить там, на час, на два даже, грубо говоря, вернуться.
Well, after having some tea at the shop from the very kind lady who's actually decided to come and join us on a walk around Heihe. Look at this. This is another restaurant where you can see the very restaurant Druzhba, da? You can see here the influence of Russian tourists coming to Heihe because the name of this restaurant is written in both Chinese and Russian. Once again, this is the restaurant Druzhba. This is the friendship restaurant, probably indicating the friendship between these two peoples, the Russians living in Blagoveshchensk and the Chinese living in Heihe. At this point, our crew was almost complete. I was almost ready to steer towards the Russian border. But after adding the two Russians to our crew, there was room for one final character that I randomly bumped into while walking the streets of Heihe. An Englishman, an authentic Englishman living in Beijing. What's up, Beijing? Where are you from?
England.
England. What the fuck
England.
are you doing here, man?
I don't know. I just wanted to experience the cold. What are you doing
Jesus Christ. I'm here to explore a border town of China.
here? Well, you come to
I
the
guess
right
you're here
place.
for the same reason, right?
Yeah, I want to see some borders.
Yeah. Are you here by yourself?
I'm here on myself.
Right,
yeah.
cool. I'm actually traveling around with two random Russians and a random Russian lady that I've just met.
Oh yeah?
You fancy joining?
Yeah, sure. Why
Right.
not? Sounds good.
All right, come with
Yeah.
me. What's your name?
Alex.
Alex. My name is Davide. Nice to
Nice
meet you.
to meet you.
Right.
Let's go.
Come with me. Let's go and see some border. I'm actually going to the border now. Have you been to the place where you can actually see Russia?
No, I haven't. No.
So there's this river walk because obviously
Yeah.
the border is marked by the Amur River.
yeah, the Amur.
So if you go on the river walk there, you can actually see Blagoveshchensk, which is the name of the town opposite to Heihe.
Russia.
And now, in proper one-piece fashion, we are ready for the next saga. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, looks like we've added an extra companion, an extra traveler to our group to go and storm the Russian border. And we all got on a random taxi towards the Amur River. А как мы нашли машину? Женщина из чай шопа пригласила на такси, чтобы доехать на набережную, да? Alright guys, there's a Chinese lady, there's an Englishman, there's a man from Italy, and there are two Russians on a car going to drive from the Chinese city of Heihe towards the border between China and Russia. If this is a dream, don't wake me up, please. Russian border! Here we come. So how long have you been in Heihe, man?
I've been here 3 hours. I just arrived from
Oh,
Beijing,
really?
yeah.
And you were traveling by yourself?
Yeah, just a little weekend trip. I've always wanted to see Heilongjiang province.
Right.
Province we're in, yeah.
No, man, I'm just glad that I've bumped into you, to be honest. When you got to Heihe this morning, were you actually expecting to end up on a car with this much of an international company?
I didn't expect an international place at all here.
And we've made it after a lot of walking around and after being interrupted by pretty much half of the population of Heihe. We've made it to the place which allows me to make you realize that I'm not full of shit, and this is indeed a border town. This is the only place where we can find two populated centers belonging to two different countries along the 4,000 kilometers border between Russia and China. Only here in Heihe, where we've got one of the biggest flags of the People's Republic of China that I've ever seen in my life. And here in Blagoveshchensk, which is not far from here, it's what, 300-400 meters away? That's Blagoveshchensk, where we can see the equivalent of the flag that we've got right behind us. That's the Russian tricolor. Вы очень часто бываете там, да, правильно. А сейчас вы находитесь на другой стороне. А какая сторона вам нравится лучше?
Не знаю, мне кажется, у нас получше набережная.
Да?
Ну,
Чем-то. Там как-то больше
это
разных.
дом.
What's written there?
It says, "Do not destroy the border."
We're not gonna do that. I was hoping that...
延续will坏. It's like the border destroying, forbidden, basically, literally.
Right, man, your Chinese is fire. How long have you lived in China?
About a year in Beijing.
And you speak Chinese so fluently? Man, hats off. Alright.
It's interesting that there's no bridges into Blagoshchensk.
Yeah, that's right. I guess I'm not quite sure, to be honest. It is interesting. I guess if there was a bridge indeed, the difference wouldn't feel as stark, right? Because you've got two totally different cultures that are colliding. And you do have a bit of cross-border traffic, but not that much. It's not the same that we have in Europe, for example, where you've got, Slovenia and Italy, you've got Slovenians living in Italy and you've got Italians living in Slovenia. It's not like that. They're very, both Heihe and Blagoveshchensk on its own way, they're very ethnically homogeneous, right?
Yeah.
And we definitely find that very difficult to understand in Europe. But I'll tell you what, as a geographic nerd, this place is so powerful, man. I mean, look at this. In winter, thanks to the laws of physics, it would be very possible for anyone to just walk on the frozen river and then cross from Russia into China and back and forth, but it seems to be very well guarded. We've seen it. We've seen this border in previous videos when on the Chinese side, at least, you've got fences and you've got barbed wire just to make sure that people would not do the crossing illegally. How do you know? Oh, because of the sign over there?
It's got,
right.
Yeah, it's forbidden to touch it, it's electrified.
Oh, so if I were to touch it, I would die, basically. Okay, that's
get
interesting. Yeah. And you can actually see that there is some people going on the river on some sort of trucks. Seems like they're installing some of the barbed wire that is also used to mark the half of the border, the very middle of the border, as you can see right there, just to mark what is the Chinese side of the river and what is the side of the river that on the other hand is in Russian waters. Российский флаг.
Не русский говорит, ты
Итальянский.
English.
Италия. Италия. Как?
Я итальянин.
Да. О. Нихао. Нихао.
Итальянин. Ездила ХХ, посмотрите.
Вы были? She was in Italy?
你去过意大利吗？
哪里？
你去过意大利吗？
没去过。
啊
那我看过电视，那特别漂亮，意大利特别
Oh,
漂
what you
亮。
saying?
Like the places are really, really pretty there.
他们过了节очень чисто呀。
по-русски.
Я видела.
А мне нравится Heihe. Ваш город мне нравится. Вы китайца, но говорите по-русски?
Да, я чуть-чуть.
О, почему? Училась?
Не, я сама поучила.
О,
Я сама
молодец.
поучила,
А в России?
книжка только.
О,
Россия
а в
были.
России
Там
была? В Благовещенске?
Да, Италия же чуть-чуть.
А, кстати, мы хотим русский ресторан. Есть?
Есть.
Где?
Сейчас вот этой улица.
Улица Маха?
Это же направо, да?
Направо?
Направо.
Сейчас
один
направо.
квартал направо и чуть-чуть налево. Лево. Там Лена, ресторан. Лена, ресторан же русской кухни.
Шеншен, спасибо большое.
Ничего. Очень знакомо, очень приятно.
Да, очень приятно.
认识你很高兴。
再见.
Красивый.
Красивый, он красивый, да. Man, I'm jealous now. Why was she saying that you're beautiful?
What can
and
I
handsome?
The ladies
And
love
I'm
me.
not. Oh wow, that was the nicest Chinese lady in the history of ladies. Oh wow, that was the nicest Chinese ladies in the history. Oh wow, that was the nicest Chinese lady in the history of Chinese ladies. We asked her if she could give us some directions to find a Russian restaurant where we can have some Russian cuisine here in Heihe. Surely there's a place like that. And she said to go down this road and then turn Naplava, which in Russian would be Naprava, meaning to the right. Now this way. Ни хао. А?
Здравствуйте.
Здравствуйте, о, вы тоже по-русски. Здесь все говорят по-русски, да?
Да, чуть-чуть.
О, я тоже чуть-чуть, я не русский.
Когда говорили,
Не.
чуть-чуть.
Он знает китайский. Maybe we're actually supposed to go down this street right here. Look at this. It's got the name Улица русских товаров. Добро пожаловать. The name of this street is literally the street of Russian items. So imagine that we're gonna find a lot of Russian items, as the name suggests. And maybe we can find some Russian food as well. Добро пожаловать is obviously welcome. Welcome to the Russian street of Heihe. Oh wow, look at this. Российский торговый дом. The commercial house, the Russian commercial house of Heihe. Let's see if we can have a sneak peek inside. So people here from China, even if they don't get a visa to enter Russia, they can still get somewhat of a taste of Russian culture and language. For example, just by walking around one of the streets of Heihe, you just go into a shop and look at what you can find. The typical matryoshkas of Russia with, oh my god, they've even got matryoshkas with Lenin and with Joseph freaking Stalin. And also Doraemon. I don't know who's worse. Doraemon очень известный в Италии. Doraemon популярный. Stalin не очень. And now the time has come for us to finally get ourselves something to eat because we're starving. We've been walking around the streets of Heihe for so long. Oh my god. And it started snowing. Ni hao. It's cold. And we found a type of restaurant that it would be very difficult to find anywhere else in China, that you can only find here in the border town of Heihe. I'm obviously talking about a Russian restaurant. Ресторан у Лены. And the Lena is a typical Russian name, so I imagine that the owner of this restaurant right here is named Lena, and this restaurant is probably run by a Russian woman named Lena. Let's go inside, let's find shelter from the hunger and the cold streets of Heihe and let's get ourselves some pilmeni or some borscht or some, I don't know, vareniki, I don't know. There you go, Restaurant Uliene. Looks like they have a lot of choice because this menu is one of the biggest menus that I've ever seen in the history of menus, and already on the first page, look at that, you've got the same Basilius Cathedral, the one that you can find on the Red Square. And as you turn the page, look at what you've got. The thing that we need and that we're looking for, a very warm dish of borscht. Rigorously without ukrop, without dill, because everybody knows that ukrop and dill is the freaking devil on earth.
Oh, 我可以。
你可以，它是不放茴香，那个小奶油放，对吧？
So we've ordered the most popular Russian beer that there is out there, the Baltica. Klassическая Svetlaya Piva. I'm gonna drink Russian beer in a way that I've never drank Russian beer before, because apparently, according to Chinese tradition, we're drinking Russian beer, but we've still gotta stick to Chinese traditions, because we need to pour our beer inside of these glasses and we're gonna drink it as if it was vodka. Salud!
Kambe.
How do you find the borscht?
Вкусно.
You like it?
I do. I like it a lot. Yeah. How true.
Even with the укроп?
Especially you do.
Oh, God. А тебе как укроп?
Как дома.
Как дома? А я спросил, чтобы у меня не было специального укропа.
Да?
Да, потому что я считаю, что укроп самый худший вещь в мире.
Почему?
Я ненавижу вкуса, а у вас укроп везде, в каждое блюдо. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna check into a hotel here in Heihe. Before we do that, we're gonna go and visit this Russian store here in central Heihe. You can see that it's a Russian store because it says Produkte cuisine, and right next to the entrance, look, you've got Saint Basilius. Wait, what is it called in English? Is it Saint Basilius or Saint Basilium?
St. Basil's.
Saint Basil's. Saint Basilicus. There you go. The cathedral that you've got on the Red Square in Moscow. Right. I hope you've enjoyed our adventure in one of the most fascinating border towns of China. And I'll see you next time. You've got some last words, dude?
谢谢。再见。
Yeah, there you go. Cheers. Thank you. Das Viduli.